Thank you, Chrissy, and thank you, RIU and Euros Hartleys. It's good to be back here. I'm here to talk about silica sand. It's a product that is not well understood, but you're completely surrounded by it all the time. You're using it all the time. I mean, in your home, the windows, paint, lighting, all the tubes, light globes, LEDs, your bench top, probably engineered stone bench tops, fiberglass bath, the TV, laptops, phones, monitors, LCDs, building cladding, all the plastics within your house, the light switch, insulation, containers that you use, in your car, the glass obviously in your car, maybe more if you've got a sunroof. Electric cars, it doesn't matter how much, whether it's electric or internal combustion, you've got the same amount of glass in a car. The headlamps, the LEDs, the LCD displays, the paint, the tyres. Tyres are about 50% silicon. Casting moulds for producing the heads, blocks and manifolds all require silica sand. And when you get into the renewables industry, well, solar panels, the piece of glass at the top, the cover glass at the top is very high-tech glass. Not only is it ultra clear, but it's got to withstand hail. And you need very high quality sand to make those. And there's usually a piece of glass on the bottom of it, of the solar panel as well. But more interestingly, high tensile yarn for fiberglass. Now the wind turbine blades are an aluminium frame with a fiberglass coating on it. And that's very high tech fiberglass. It's actually very high aluminium included within it. It's a high tensile yarn that you use to make that fiberglass. And that's mainly because every time they whack a bird, you don't want to put a hole in the blade. But we've got lots of silica sand, and we've got five projects in Western Australia. They're multi-decade. We've got 100 years production at a number of our projects. And these are the largest and also the most advanced non-private silica sand projects in Australia. So we've got mining leases granted over a number of the projects. Aerosmith North is leading our timetable, our production schedule. And really we're using it to set a number of precedents. And it's quite remote, so it's got less scrutiny, but it's also got a type of vegetation which we think we can more easily rehabilitate, and it will set a number of precedents for all of our other projects. Every time we conduct a study at Aerosmith North, we duplicate those studies also at our other projects. And there's enormous interest from customers in Southeast Asia. Southeast Asia is running out of sand. It's hard to believe. But desert sand doesn't meet the criteria for producing glass or in producing concrete either. Beach sands are predominantly calcium carbonate. So where you come across sand all the time is not suitable for all the products that I just ran through. So the company's based in WA, all the management team is in WA. It's low impact mining and processing. The processing is very simple, and the mining, you can't get a whole lot simpler. It's a number of front-end loaders. But more important is the access to infrastructure. This will be, a part of it will be a bulk export to Asia. So you have to have access to ports. And as we've selected these sites, actually, we've selected them because not only are they granite-based sands, which is where you get the best quality quartz, which ultimately makes up silica sand, but we've also selected them because they're next to railway lines. So we've got rail access to ports. So it's a great logistics chain. And these are very, very long-term for export, but also we're looking at manufacturing glass in Western Australia. There is no glass manufacturing in Western Australia, and it hasn't been for about 50 years. And it was small scale. So there is a demand, and I'll talk about that a bit more. Aerosmith North, it's the most advanced we've got about 220 million tonnes in reserve. We're looking to produce 2 million tonnes a year. It's suitable for making flat glass, like your windows, container glass, and also automobile glass. So there's quite a large market for it. It can't make solar panel glass, but one of our other projects can. So a 2 million tonne a year plant, we've got 100 years of production at this project. Access to a railway line. The Eneabba to Jordan line used to be used by Silica to transport mineral sands concentrate. It hasn't done for quite a number of years. We've got water, which is very important when it comes around to processing silica sand. And we're right next door to the #1 highway. And we've also got potential here to have a hybrid power supply. There is no doubt that the greatest hurdle we face on any of these projects is the environmental approval. We're well advanced with Aerosmith North and also with Aerosmith Central. These are very large areas. The actual mining lease is about 1,000 hectares. We're applying for about 380 hectares at Aerosmith North, which is about 30 years production. But it's 380 hectares, and the EPA has never approved a project of this scale in Western Australia in the Perth Plain before. So it's copying a lot more scrutiny, but we're well down the track, and we expect to get that hopefully in the next 2 or 3 months. Part of what we're doing here, it's quite unique. It's a method of rehabilitation. Ridiculously simple when you look at it, but what it does is takes a sod of topsoil out and you place it immediately behind you to where you have been mining. So the topsoil's exposed for minutes and it largely keeps the topsoil and all the microbes and fungi and all that sort of thing in the topsoil, keeps it relatively intact. And it is by far the most superior rehabilitation method, certainly when it comes to sand mining. Aerosmith Central, it's started the process as well. We've had what's called an ESD, a scoping document, sitting with the EPA now for about 10 months. That doesn't seem to be moving very far while they keep looking at Aerosmith North. But Aerosmith North, it's this vegetation, it's called Quangan Heath, it's only about waist high. As you can imagine, you're not going to get big tall trees in loose sand, and our mining target here is in fact just loose sand. But the roots are very shallow, they do 200-300 mil. So when we take this sod out, we've got a modified front end loader bucket that takes out 400 mil at a time. So you largely keep all the roots intact as well. This is a new prospect. It's just south of Aerosmith North. It was just announced this morning. It adds about 200 million tonnes to our portfolio, so we've got about 1.3 billion tonnes of sand, so we've got lots of it. We've actually taken part of the Aerosmith North resource, and it's now been included into Brand. It's right next door to Aerosmith North. It's a future development. What we have recognised, it takes a long time to get approvals for these projects. So this one here, we've applied for a mining lease here. It'll sit there for a while. It's something we're going to deal with, but we'll keep it in mind and slowly start the process for approvals here as well. But it's got the same access to water and the same infrastructure as Aerosmith North. Maluish is large scale. It's a couple of 100 million tonnes again, but it's much higher grade. And from this, we can produce a sand at 99.9 up to 99.95% silica dioxide. But more important, when you get into very high grade silicas, to make ultra clear glass, you need to lower the iron. Now, getting iron below 100 ppm Fe2O3, you need to, if you get below 100, you can make ultra clear glass. We can produce less than 100 here. So this is highly sought after. You can imagine the solar panel industry is growing at 30% per year. Every glass manufacturer in Asia wants to be making ultra clear glass. And to make ultra-clear glass, you need very high-grade silica sand. This is one of a handful of deposits in the whole world. So it's a world-class deposit of very high-grade silica sand. We'd like to be making high ultra-clear glass in Western Australia. As it happens, the ingredients for silica to make glass, you also need dolomite, lime, soda ash. Lime and dolomite we've got in Western Australia as well, and with LNG we can produce soda ash. Also, Western Australia is now the cheapest LNG in the world. So it's a good place to be making glass. We've been talking to a number of the major glass producers in Asia to try and entice them to come down and build a glass plant. Our processing plant for the silica sand is around $50 million. Glass plant, 500 million, which is a little bit out of our league. Also, we don't have the IP in Australia, so we'd like to get somebody there. Maluish is a bit different. It's got these banksia trees there, but it's the low sedges and grasses that will be suitable for the what we call VDT, this rehabilitation method. And it's the grasses and sedges that are the recalcitrant shrubs here. So it deals with them far better than any other way. Processing, quite simple. The key to this is attritioning. Now, attritioning is an agitated slurry where the grains rub on each other and you polish each of the little quartz crystals, which is your silica sand. And the rest of the circuit's just taken all the bits and pieces that you've rubbed off. So it's a simple process. There's flocculate in the thickener so we can recycle the water, but otherwise there's no toxic chemicals involved in here, just lots of water. We take our ESG responsibilities very seriously, and we have quite a number of opportunities here at the planning stage to deal with a lot of the ESG issues. We spent a lot of time dealing with stakeholders. There aren't many stakeholders, mainly native title claimants and the state, but all the local community, we're in good communication with them. And we've got an opportunity to, in fact, get a power supply. It'll end up being a hybrid power supply with solar panels, but probably better than that. We're able to get access to, we're right next door to the Waitsia gas field. And so there's an opportunity here to put a power station right at the wellhead and to reticulate the power to us. So it's probably the cheapest power solution you could possibly think of in Western Australia. With our rehabilitation method, we're going to trial quite a number of different methods involved in that we'll keep trialling to produce the best outcome we can for rehabilitation. We've got a number of other initiatives. We've been sort of shortlisted for a state government grant, and where we can take very high grades, we can actually take a cut of the Maluish silica sand that is around 80 ppm, and we can grind it into a flour. And the main market for that is LCDs. Critical Minerals Prospectus, we were published in that just before Christmas, so we've got a lot of government support for what we're doing. The trials of VDT, that'll be undertaken in the next few months. We've also applied for 3 geothermal permits. We'll see how we go getting those, but they've been sitting there for the best part of a year. Very experienced team, all been involved in mining and exploration for quite a number of years. Corporately, we're market capped at about 60 mil. The share price keeps on drifting off. When we're in this EPA process, it's very it's a time-consuming exercise, but we don't spend a lot of money. But we think we're in the right time and the right place. And silica sand is one of those products that it's hard to believe, but the world is actually running out of silica sand. It's the most used commodity on the planet, 50 billion tonnes a year. Most of it goes into concrete. But we've got good, great infrastructure in Western Australia, and it's the ideal place to do it. And we've got access to ports, and we're fairly close to Asia, where the bulk of our export sales will go to. So thank you very much.